Our speaker is Adam Bode from the School of Archaeology and Anthropology at Australian National University, Australia. Today, he presents his talk on the topic, Sex Differences in Romantic Love, an Evolutionary Perspective.
Hello everybody, my name's Adam Bode. I'm a PhD student in biological anthropology at the Australian National University, and I'm going to talk to you today about a paper I've written with Severi Luoto and Phil Kavanagh called Sex Differences in Romantic Love, an Evolutionary Perspective. So we're at a love conference. Everybody's got different terminology they use when talking about love. I'm talking about what I refer to as romantic love, which is essentially that thing that happens at the beginning of a romantic relationship where you go a little bit crazy and think your partner is the best thing ever. It's commonly associated with the early stages of a romantic relationship, but can happen in the absence of a romantic relationship in something called unrequited love, and can sometimes last many years or decades or even a lifetime. Some psychologists have called it passionate love, although that's increasingly rare, and lay people refer to it as being in love or falling in love. There is a biological definition of romantic love. Bode and Kushnick defined it as a motivational state typically associated with a desire for long-term mating with a particular individual. It occurs across the lifespan and is associated with distinctive cognitive, emotional, behavioral, social, genetic, neural, and endocrine activity in both sexes. Throughout much of the life course, it serves mate choice, courtship, sex, and pair bonding functions, and it can best be described as a suite of adaptations and byproducts that arose sometime during the recent evolutionary history of humans. So we're going to be looking at essentially psychological sex differences, the sex differences found in the expression of romantic love. Psychological sex differences emerge when the sexes face different adaptive challenges in their evolutionary history, and human mating is an area with well-established sex differences. These have been detailed in relation to mate preferences, courtship behaviors, and intersexual competition. And sexual selection is the evolutionary process through which psychological sex differences emerge. Sexual selection is the evolutionary process whereby one sex has a preference for specific features in another potential mate. There has been some previous research investigating sex differences in romantic love, but these have not used a sample exclusively experiencing romantic love. They've tended to use samples of people in romantic relationships, some of whom may have been experiencing romantic love. And the findings of those studies indicate that males fall in love more often than females, males fall in love more quickly than females, and females experience romantic love more intensely than males. That being said, because of the methodology used in the studies, and in particular the samples used, we can't be confident of this. This is the first study to investigate sex differences in romantic love in a sample experiencing romantic love using validated measures. We took 808 young adults from the Romantic Love Survey 2022. Those are young adults aged 18 to 25 who are all self-reported being in love with a romantic partner, so either dating in a committed relationship or married or de facto. We only included people who had been in love for less than 24 months because 2 years is a commonly cited length of time prototypical romantic love lasts. And they all scored above 130 on the passionate love scale because we deemed that scores below that, they were likely not experiencing romantic love. We undertook a bunch of hierarchical linear regressions whereby at step 1 we included controls and at step 2 we included biological sex, where female was coded as 1 and male was coded as 2. We had 3 predictions. The first was that males will have fallen in love more often than females. The second was that males will have fallen in love sooner than females. And the third was that females will express a greater intensity of romantic love than males. We also undertook some exploratory analysis investigating obsessive thinking about a loved one and commitment. This heat map just shows where participants to the survey resided. As you can see, they're all pretty much from North America, Europe, and South Africa. The warmer colors indicate higher proportions of the sample. It was relatively weird, but I will note that 41% of the sample came from traditionally non-Western countries such as South Africa, Poland, Mexico, and Hungary. The first thing we did was undertake a number of univariate analysis. We just did some t-tests comparing females and males on number of times in love, love progression, which is when individuals fell in love relative to when they started their romantic relationship, the intensity of romantic love, obsessive thinking, and commitment. And as you can see, females had fallen in love about 2.3 times across their life, whereas males had fallen in love about 2.6 times. And this difference was significant and constituted a small effect. In terms of love progression, as you can see, females fell in love about 1.9 months after they started their romantic relationship, whereas males fell in love about 1 month after starting their romantic relationship. And this difference was significant and constituted a small effect. In terms of the intensity of romantic love, which was measured with the Passionate Love Scale 30, females scored marginally higher than did males, and this was a significant difference, constituting a small effect. In terms of obsessive thinking, which was basically asked what percentage of your waking hours do you spend thinking about your loved one, females thought about their loved one about 54% of their waking hours, whereas males thought about their loved one about 45% of their waking hours. This was a significant difference, and while it still constituted only a small effect, it was the largest effect we found in our data. And in terms of commitment, which was measured with the Triangular Love Scale 15 commitment subscale, females scored slightly higher than males, and this was significant but was a very small effect. So our first major analysis we undertook was a hierarchical linear regression investigating number of times in love. We predicted that males will have fallen in love more often than females. The outcome was number of times in love, and the predictor was biological sex. We controlled for age, sex ratio, gender inequality, and months in love. Adding the controls to the model explained about 3% of the variation in number of times in love, and when we added biological sex to the model, it explained an additional 1%, and this was a significant contribution of sex. Second analysis investigated love progression. We predicted that males will have fallen in love more quickly than did females. The outcome was love progression, which is when individuals fell in love relative to when they started their romantic relationship. The predictor was biological sex, and we controlled for age, sex ratio, and gender inequality. Adding the controls to the model explained almost none of the variation in love progression, and when we added biological sex to the model, it explained an additional 1% of the variation in love progression, and that was a significant contribution. The next analysis we did investigated the intensity of romantic love. We predicted that females will experience romantic love more intensely. The outcome was the intensity of romantic love measured with the Passionate Love Scale, the 30-item version. The predictor was biological sex, and we controlled for age, sex ratio, gender inequality, months in love, and days since sex. Adding the controls to the model explained almost 3% of the variation in intensity of romantic love, and when we added biological sex to the model, it explained an additional 1.1% of the variation, and that contribution was significant. We then undertook two exploratory analyses. We investigated obsessive thinking. We had no prediction for this, and the outcome was obsessive thinking about a loved one, measured by asking participants what percentage of their waking hours they spent thinking about their loved one. The predictor was biological sex, and we controlled for age, sex ratio, gender inequality, months in love, and days since sex. Adding the controls to the model explained about 3.3% of the variation in obsessive thinking, and when we added biological sex to the model, it explained an additional 4% of the variation in obsessive thinking. This was a significant contribution, and it was the largest effect we found of any of the factors we investigated in romantic love. We finally undertook a hierarchical linear regression investigating commitment. We had no prediction, and the outcome was commitment measured by the commitment subscale of the Triangular Love Scale 15. The predictor was biological sex, and we controlled for age, sex ratio, gender inequality, months in love, and days since sex. Adding controls to the model explained 7.3% of the variation in commitment, and when we added biological sex to the model, it only explained an additional 0.3% of the variation. And this was not a significant contribution, indicating that females and males experience commitment at about the same level. So the main findings of our study were that males had fallen in love more often than females. Males fall in love about 1 month sooner than females. Females experience romantic love slightly more intensely. Females obsess about their partner notably more, and females and males are about the same in commitment. The implications of the findings are substantial. So, a number of small differences between females and males in the features of a romantic love suggest two things. First, that only small differences emerged suggests that both sexes face similar adaptive challenges that drove the evolution of romantic love. And this is evidently the survival of the pregnant mother and the newborn infant. That being said, small differences suggest different adaptive challenges were faced by females and males. So why are there sex differences? The fact that males fall in love more often than females could be explained by the fact that males need to court more than females. Across the animal kingdom, females are choosier, and males tend to engage in proactive courtship behaviors. The fact that males fall in love earlier than females could also be explained by the fact that males need to court more, but also that they need to display commitment earlier than females. Romantic love is believed to play a role in signaling and promoting commitment, and it may act as an honest signal of commitment. Finding that females experience romantic love more intensely than males, it's possible you could argue that that might be because long-term romantic relationships are more important for females than males, but we actually think it's probably just a simple artifact of the form of measurement. Individual aspects of romantic love might be slightly higher in females, and as a result, a measure of the total intensity of romantic love might just be higher. So we're not reading too much into that. And in terms of the finding that females think about their partner more than males, this is a bit unclear. So I believe, and a number of others believe, that romantic love evolved by co-opting mother-infant bonding. Obsessive thinking about an infant plays an obvious function in maternal love, in that it ensures the mother does not forget about the baby. The role it plays in romantic love is a bit unclear. Some have suggested it promotes bonding and fidelity and those sorts of things, but we're a bit unclear. So if anyone's got any ideas about the function of obsessive thinking and why females might do it more than males, I'd be really keen to hear it. So the overall take-home message is that romantic love solved via natural and sexual selection, both the same and different adaptive challenges faced by females and males. This may seem obvious, but nobody had really demonstrated it empirically, so we think it's a very important finding for the literature on sex differences in human mating. And I've just got some references for you. Thank you.